secret.
All right, Holly, whenever you're ready to start
Okay.
recording.
Welcome to the Sutton Planning Board meeting of 25 January 2021. And because of the special conditions we're in, I'm going to read this statement. Due to the current COVID-19 crisis pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending the certain provisions of the open meeting law, this meeting of the planning board is being held remotely via Zoom. To join the meeting, visit www.zoom.us/join and enter meeting ID 844-1148-4488 and passcode 843652. The meeting will be broadcast and recorded on local public access television station, Verizon 31 and Charter/Spectrum 191, and live streamed on the town's YouTube channel when available. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, no person shall address a meeting of a public body without permission of the chair. Individuals who would like to participate should state their name and address after being recognized by the chairperson. As an effort to ensure transparency to our viewers at home, the chat function is not available. Okay, the first item on the agenda tonight is PV Crossing, Galaxy Pass, the modification of the Route 146 overlay permit. Jen, can you bring us up to date from whatever happened from the last time?
Well,
I should read the.
you want me to read the notice first, the public notice?
Yes, Mike, please.
Sure. In accordance with the provisions of the Sutton zoning bylaw, section 4C7, modification to approved site plans in VD Route 146 overlay district bylaw, special permit, the planning board will hold a hearing on the applications of PVS Care SPE doing business as Mickey's Car Wash and Detail Shop. The applications propose to modify the site plan and special permit approvals to allow 3 total business signs for the car wash and also allow one of the signs to be a new freestanding sign constructed outside the limit of the property where the car wash use exists, but within the property limits of the Pleasant Valley Crossing Shopping Center development located at 10 and 17 Galaxy Pass. This hearing will be held on Monday, January 25th, 2021 at 7 p.m. This will be a virtual meeting in accordance with orders issued by the governor during the current state of emergency.
Thank you, Mike. Jen.
Yes. Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. I would suggest, Mr. Chairman, that we have the applicants present. So if Pat Doherty or Tammy Barakis want to go ahead and summarize their application, I am happy to share any documents that they have sent over to us to facilitate the discussions. So just tell me which ones.
Okay. And this is Patrick Doherty with Midpoint Engineering and Consulting. I'm here on behalf of PVS Car Care. Also here on the call, as part of the team are Tammy Barakis and Kyle Nagasian, who are the owner-operators. Also, we've invited Bob Keene and Ronald and Mike Campagna from Auto Wash Maintenance Corp. in Camp's car wash locations. And they're considered experts in the car wash industry. And they're going to present on some of the needs of car washes. So we're here for the modifications that were previously read. The modifications are being sought to install the signs for the car wash business. And as part of the request, we're asking the board to waive specific provisions of the sign ordinance, and we'll get into detail what provisions we'd be asking to be waived. But that is allowed under the Route 146 overlay district bylaw in section VD3. We feel that the waiver is justified. There's a couple of standards that the board must reach. One being that the property is unique, and that allowing a waiver would be within the intent of the bylaw. So I'm going to present a little information on the property itself and why we feel that this is unique and the waiver is justified. And then after I'm done presenting that, the folks from Auto Wash Maintenance Corp are going to go into detail on signage requirements for car washes. So I'm going to start with a simple sign survey that I did in an overlay map. So Jen, if you could pull up the first graphic that I presented, it was number 1, I think, northbound signs. So,
Okay.
so what I did is I used Google Earth, so I didn't have to stop 100 times on 146 and get out of my car and snap photos. So I believe it's pretty current. And what I did is I started, within the corridor that our project's kind of in, and that starts at Central Turnpike and goes north up to the town line. So, we can flip through the signs here on the northbound side. And if you want to just, as we go, you're on the southbound, Jen, if you could go to the northbound. And then there's 16, if you could just flip through it, so we start here at Unified, and then Gunny Engineering, 146 Fitness is next. And, next coming up is going to be Skips. And what you're seeing here is all these businesses are pretty much single tenant businesses and properties. The zoning requirements in this district are minimum lot area of 40,000 square feet and a minimum frontage of 200 feet. So what you see is a lot of single tenant signs, spaced, roughly 200-300 feet apart. There's a few exceptions to that. You can run through those quicker, Jen. They're all pretty much the same, and anyone who's driven 146 knows the signs. The exceptions to these there's really, I think, 3. There's ours, which is a multi-tenant sign. There is the 146 Business Center on the southbound side. That's got four tenants. There's Sutton Square, which is the shopping center directly across the street from us. And then I think there's the Sutton Business Park. Those other businesses I mentioned with the multi-tenant panels, those are also one building on the property. The property is set back, roughly 100 feet from the street, and all the storefronts have signs that are visible from the street. So, I guess that's enough of the signs. If you want to go over the aerial photo, that's, I think, number 3. And if you want to zoom in a bit, and you can start from the bottom and then scroll up. And on this map, you'll see the white lines are the property lines. The green dots are the approximate location of these the signs that we've been flipping through. So we're at about Central Turnpike now, the southern extent, and as we go north, you see all the green dots in the spacing that they're at. Again, a lot of these properties have one, or all of them have one building, but about 200 feet of frontage. Now, if you stop there, Jen, this is the Pleasant Valley Shopping Center. And the property outline is in red. That's the 4 parcels that make up the shopping center. The parcel that was originally built with Market 32 is got the frontage of 146. The empty area is, I guess, the field, or what we've been referring to as the Lowe's pad, which is not developed. To the north of that is the new building where Fresenius and Love to Play is located, and then just to the left of that, where it's an open spaces, is where the car wash is going. And then further to the east is land owned by the shopping center, but we probably would not be commercial uses, and we're still developing that. So you can kind of see in this aerial that our property is the largest. We've followed the intent of the Route 146 overlay district bylaw, which really wants adjacent properties to come together with one driveway from 146 and to develop it jointly, and that's what we've done. So we've constructed a common driveway that goes from 146 to Boston Road. That doesn't just lead into a parking lot with a building there. We've set the buildings back and I think done a nice job developing it. I've shown 3 green dots in front of that. The 2 southerly green dots are the existing signs. The bottom one is Unibank sign. The next one is the common sign for all of the tenants in the plaza. And then towards the north, that is where we would construct a freestanding sign. And we'll go through the signs in a little bit. But you can see from the spacing here that this is not abnormal. It's not like we're creating a density of signs where it would be not similar to what's already established in along 146, or what's likely to be built on Route 146 with zoning requirements of 200 feet of frontage. Our frontage there has got I believe it's almost 740 feet. So theoretically that could be 3 larger than minimum requirement lots. And what we would end up with would be 3 signs, which would be, I guess, typical in the corridor. The signs that we're proposing, if you want to go to the slide number 4, are 3 signs for the business. One would be on the building, one would be on an existing pylon sign on Boston Road, and then the third would be freestanding. So we're showing the first one. The first one we were showing, that would be the Boston Road existing sign, and they would occupy one of the panels on that sign. That would attract commuters going past Boston Road. Wouldn't be visible from 146 or from within the plaza. And if you go to the next slide, that is the building mounted sign, and you can see the circle on the bottom left. That would be the sign. It would be hanging perpendicular to the front of the building and perpendicular to our plaza driveway. So that would be seen by folks that are driving on the internal driveway. Again, that wouldn't be seen by folks on Boston Road or by folks on Route 146. And then finally, we slide down to the last one. This is the proposed freestanding sign that we would be proposing for the car wash. I apologize for we did submit a sign that looks similar to this, but it was an earlier draft that was 5 foot by 5 foot. What we are proposing is a 7 foot by 7 foot sign. So the sign that's up here is correct. It's the same, I guess, proportions, but a little bit larger that was in the original package. The size of the letter, size of the sign is you'll hear is supported by guidelines on signage. There's an agency that publishes, depending on speed and distance from a road, what size letters or copy material is needed for folks in cars that are passing by to be able to legibly see what the sign is advertising. So, I'll speak a little bit more on the wrap up, but I think what we're trying to portray here is that our site is definitely different than every other site on 146, being that, it's about 25 acres. Many of the other sites are between 1 and 4 acres. All of the other sites have 1 building on them. We've got 7 buildings, and right now we have 14 tenants. That's without the largest piece of the project being that Lowe's pad being developed. In all likelihood, that will also be multiple buildings with multiple tenants. So, our property here is at a real disadvantage compared to others on the corridor. As you saw on the kind of the sign survey, they're all They all either have or propose, signs up to 75 square feet per individual business, and their buildings have signage on their walls that can be seen from Route 146. Our project, if we are only allowed to have the one multi-tenant sign, it doesn't have enough space for all the proposed tenants, but also each tenant space is right now would be 6.5 square feet. They're just for businesses that need to attract the impulse buying folks on Route 146. It's just not enough area for them to do that. So that kind of wraps up my early presentation, and I'll do a wrap up at the end. But I'd invite Bob or Ron or to talk a little bit about the car wash business.
How you doing? Bob Keane from Auto Wash Maintenance Corporation. Our company's been supplying the car wash industry for over 50 years. Ron Campagna is the founder. He also owns Camp's Car Washes, a few car washes, laundromat, which Mike Campagna, who's here with us, can talk a little bit more about the operations of the car wash. I do a lot of consulting around New England, where we've probably built 500 plus car washes. And historically, we're seeing it's really an impulse buy. About 75% of the business is really impulse, other than just the in-town like marketing that you usually get to get people to come use a car wash. So if they're not going to that area for a reason, like going shopping or something like that, the car washes really rely on the people passing by the street to see their signage, especially when you can't see the building. So even some people see a car wash building, the signage is really important, that they get their attention so they can pull off onto the property. Maybe Mike can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I've been managing partner of 3 car washes for just about 30 years. And basically, from my perspective as an operator, the importance of a clear and visible sign that passerbys can see from a distance and not have it cluttered and kind of buried in with other signage or obstructions is, it's not only important for safety because it is an impulse buy. Going to the car wash is not typically like your primary destination. It's one of those things that when you're going somewhere, you pass by, you go, oh, look, a car wash, I'm going to pull in. And for what I was looking at on those pictures that were just displayed on that road, I mean, the speed limit on that road looked like it was 55 miles an hour at some point. So you need to have a large enough sign that as customers approaching that area, they can safely know where to turn off, where to get in, and not kind of do the neck snap and like, oh, what, did I just pass the entrance there? Where is this car wash? So from an operator perspective, a clear visible sign is key. And from everything I'm seeing here as well, it looks like it's what they're proposing is well within the character of the area. So nothing that's going to stand out per se and look out of place, I should say. But yeah, I figured if anyone had a question for someone who's been in the business operating for as long as I have, I can answer any questions anyone may have.
Does anyone on the board have any questions of these 2 gentlemen?
I'm the second picture of the building. If you can put that, it's not a dog wash. We're not cleaning dogs there.
Have a pet wash inside.
Hi.
So we have a lobby. We're going to be opening towards the end of the year 3 additional businesses. One is a detail shop, one's retail, and one will be a pet wash.
Oh, okay. I noticed that. Cleaning dogs in Sutton. Okay. I didn't hear about that. I missed it on all the other meeting. That's okay. I'm on board.
So that was Tammy Barakis speaking. Tammy, the detail is really a kind of an integral part of the car wash. The retail would be accessory, right? Just selling things that are related to dog and, oh, well, the pet wash we'll have to talk about, but to the car wash and the detail wash.
Yeah, I mean, it's really more for the it's car care products,
Okay.
basically. So, you know, everything from the soap and wax and things that you use to the tools that you might use, like buffers and things like that.
Okay. Anybody else on the board have any questions at this moment? Hearing none, does anybody in the general public have any questions? And if you do, please introduce yourself, give your name and your address. Oh, hearing none. Okay,
I have a question. Dan Robertson, 126 Boston Road.
okay. Yes,
Question.
Mr. Robinson.
Yeah, the question I would have is, if this business is allowed to put up the sign, is it going to set a precedence for all the other businesses to do the same? And is the sign illuminated? Thank you.
Thank you. Well, is the sign illuminated? I guess we can handle that one
Yeah,
right
I
away.
can partially answer that, and I'd like Pat to comment as well. It is internally illuminated according to the sign bylaw. And we don't think it's going to set a precedent, because I know you're concerned about, the board was concerned about that as well. And the reason why we don't think it will set a precedent is because our location within the property is so unique, where we're completely not visible at all to 146, where pretty much everyone else in the plaza is. And so it makes our location and the topography as you're coming up over 146 blocks our location completely. We can show you a picture of that as well that hasn't been shown. So there aren't any other tenants in the plaza that have that situation. And also we're an impulse based business, like Auto Wash mentioned, and to enforce the sign bylaw would restrict our business significantly. It'd be detrimental to our business. We really will rely heavily on the 146 commuter traffic.
Yeah,
I mean, is there one of these you'd like me to show?
Yeah, let's see, I think that the 146, no, keep going, Jen, I'm sorry. Or maybe up. I don't see.
Carrie, you want me to just open one and scroll?
Yeah. Well, go back, sorry, one. That one's a good one. So that's what you see. Oops.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Bouncing around.
So all those trees, that's what you see when you're approaching our spot. And there's no way for us to do anything about it, because that's another property that's owned by, I think it's Cold Spring.
Oh, my doctor's saying.
Yeah, and then this is Pat Doherty again, and just speaking is on the question of whether it's precedent setting. There's provisions for waivers, and/or variances in the bylaw, and they're all reviewed, independently. Just because if we were successful tonight, we were able to construct a sign, wouldn't mean that someone without a need can just go get a building permit and install a sign. They would need to go through the proper board, whether it be ZBA or planning board, improve their point. And the planning board would be under no obligation to grant a sign unless they felt that there were a need there, based on the property and based on the use, and if it was something needed. There is no visibility to the building as you're driving southbound on Route 146. And that's due to a number of reasons. Number one is Route 146 is much higher. As you're going southbound, you're going down a steep hill. There's the gas station in the lot that blocks the visibility as you're looking to the east. Northbound, as you're driving right now with leaves off the trees and no development on Dr. Singh's property, you can see some of the construction, but it's if you're going 50 miles an hour, 55 miles an hour up, approaching a busy intersection, you're not looking to your right to see what kind of businesses are located in the shopping center. So they really are going to rely on some visibility from Route 146. I had mentioned sign standards. I thought someone else was going to speak on those, but
I can.
we do have information from the United States Sign Council Foundation, which is basically the publication that the industry relies on for signage. Using the assumptions that it's a 50 mile an hour road, a legibility index of 30 and a reaction time of 10 seconds and a reaction distance is 735, which we probably don't meet all those. Those are probably even in our case worse. They would recommend letters for the signs to be 20 inches high, a single letter area square foot of 2.8. But actually, I'm sorry, it was 25 for the letter height, 4.2 square feet per area of letter, a copy area of 50 square feet, in the area sign of 125 square feet. What we're proposing is even much less than that. And do you have the numbers there? I think I may have an older copy, but we had 20-inch letter heights, 2.8 square foot letter area, 33 square feet of copy area, and 50 square feet of sign area. That's on the freestanding sign. What's available on the multi-tenant freestanding sign at the entrance are letter heights a maximum of 8 inches, a half a square foot of area, 6.5 square feet of copy area, and that would be the same as the total area of the sign in the panels there. So even what we're proposing is much less than the recommended amount. And again, we're competing against all of those other lots on 146 that aren't in a shopping center. Each of those properties by right can construct a sign up to 75 square feet.
Any other questions in the general public? Okay. Jen, your observations on this?
Based on my conversations with town council to date and some information town council shared with the board certainly has the authority to waive the provisions of the Route 146 overlay bylaw, which include the sign-based bylaw, and allow this request if they so choose. They also obviously have the ability to do just the opposite and deny the request. In either case, if you deny the request, you want to state exactly why. And if you approve the request, you just want to be very particular to some of the stuff that has been discussed about the unique nature of this situation. You certainly don't legally set precedent, but obviously, as you know, if you just kind of give a carte blanche waiver with no reasoning why you think this is unique compared to any other location, and don't refer to the information that's been provided by the applicant to shore up their request and justify their request, then obviously somebody can always come to you and say, hey, look, you gave it to them, you need to give it to me. So, so whether you deny or whether you approve, you need to be very specific in your reasoning, and that will remove kind of the precedent risk that is out there. Again, that's not a legal risk. It's just kind of an annoyance. You want to be very consistent in your decisions.
So do we need a motion to start the conversation on this? No? Okay.
Nope.
All right, Mike, what's your view on here?
First, I'd like to, thank Tammy and Patrick and the others for joining in and, adding their insights and knowledge to it. Give a lot to think about. I do go along with the idea that this is a very unique situation of where the property is located. And I do feel, as they have suggested, that this type of business would be hurt by not having a sign visible and attracting those drive-bys. So I tend to think I'm in favor of this motion. I think we're here to promote businesses. They've made a good interest and attempt to come into town and build a worthwhile business. And I think what they're looking for can help them along the way. It is a unique situation, so I'm in favor of it.
Okay, Bill?
I just have one question is, just to be sure, the freestanding sign along 146, that is an exterior illuminated sign?
Interior,
Yeah,
internal,
it's internally
internally
illuminated.
illuminated.
The one on 146 is internal, so it's a backlit.
It is backlit. We do meet the town's requirements for the stencil cut letters. So, the blank space around the letters or the graphics are kind of blacked out, and backlit light comes through the individual letters or graphics.
And then the ones on the building are what kind?
Those are internally illuminated channel letter signs.
And then the one that's on the driveway from Boston Road, is that also internal illuminated?
Correct.
All right, so they're all illuminated.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay, Kyle?
Yeah, I tend to follow Mike's comments. It's a very unique situation. The building's set back, not visible from 146, and they need that impulse buy. I also just want to ask a question. I don't know if Jen can answer this or not, but is it, if they wanted to even put the name on that multi-tenant sign on 146, we would have to approve that as well, because technically it's not the same parcel.
Yes, even if they wanted to be on the main pylon sign, that's technically on a different parcel within the same project. Yeah.
So I think one, having a bigger sign for an impulse buy thing like this is safer for the community. Coming down 146, trying to read all those little tenant signs on a multi-tenant sign is tough enough as it is when you're trying to look for a car. And I think it would just be a disservice to this business zone if we did not let them have any representation on 146. And that's my feelings on it.
Mhm. Scott? Are you there? Bob?
Bob Largis. Patrick, I want first of all, congratulate you. You printed a great case for the client, and it's a very different circumstance than what we're up against. And as you know, I was a no vote because I don't want to set a precedent. And but I've been convinced that we have spent enough time. It's been pretty clear that it's a very unique situation, and for this business to be successful, they need that. To Patrick, I want to make sure that the new people that come into the new building with multiple tenants, where Lowe's was going to go, it's going to be hard for me to get someone else to come and use the same argument that I have to have my own sign. So good job. I think you presented I can get me to change my vote to a very unique situation.
Scott?
All right, so, I've always said things like Route 9 sign density, things I didn't want to really see in Sutton. And with the future pad to yet be developed, if there's 6 businesses back there that want signs on 146, that's exactly what I envision as a density. So I'm not a big fan. I didn't support this before. It's been put back in our lap, so I'm not in favor of this at this time myself.
Okay,
And Wally, I got one more question, if you don't mind.
go ahead, Bill.
Either for Jen or for the proponents, the sign we're talking about, the freestanding sign that's on the view right now, where does that fit into our sign bylaw graph that I'm looking at? The size and type of the type of sign?
It's a business advertising sign, so it should be 75 square feet, I believe, in the freestanding business sign. I believe it's 75 square feet in the business district.
Right, but it also says exterior illumination.
Right. Yeah, I believe it's 50 foot if it's internally
Yeah,
illuminated.
internally illuminated,
Oh,
which
here
is,
it is. That's why it's 7 by 7.
yep,
All right, so freestanding business internal illumination. Okay, I agree.
thanks, Pat.
Thank you.
Okay, the chair holds the view that I'd say the majority of the board is the reason to go forward on this is the uniqueness of the situation. And, obviously underneath it all, we are looking for business development in the proper areas in the town of Sutton. So I guess do we need a motion? And I also don't want this to, become precedent. So we got to make this, tie this whole vote into the uniqueness of the situation.
Yes, so you've been requested to do several waivers. So we're going to look at each of those waiver requests and, oh, sorry, I got this thing in my way. And then we'll make a finding in accordance with each of those. All right. Patrick wishes to modify as a special permit. All right, so the first one is to allow 3 total business signs. Usually you are only allowed to have 1 on the building and 1 freestanding. In this case, they will have the 1 freestanding that you saw adjacent to basically the Starbucks multi-tenant building. They will have 1, how many square foot, Pat, on the Boston Road sign? Patrick, how big is the square footage on the Boston Road pylon sign?
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up right now.
Okay, and then they will have the perpendicular, that round hanging sign off the front of the building, which is technically a building mounted sign, though it's kind of uniquely and frankly nicely mounted perpendicular to the face of the building. So that's the first waiver request you've been asked to rule on, whether you think it is a good idea to allow 1 additional business sign for this business. So if we want to just do kind of a motion to grant or deny that waiver, and you can just kind of voice freely the reasons why you think that is appropriate. Those will become part of the waiver decision. And then we'll go on to the next one. One of the new signs to be freestanding outside the limits of the property. So you did do that at your last meeting, that saying it could be on a different property, but town council has said that he wants you to revote that within the confines of this public hearing. Okay?
Okay, so
In answer to your question, Jen, that Boston Road sign is 20 square feet. It's 10 foot long by 2 feet high.
Okay, so we've got 20 square feet on Boston Road, 49 square feet freestanding, and the round sign.
It's
Oh.
24. That's 24 square feet. It's a projecting sign, and that's the amount allowed.
Okay.
Okay, someone want to make a motion?
Through the chair, I make a motion that we waive the sign limit to 3 due to the unique location and unique position this shopping center is put in for an impulse buy business.
Okay, so location of the particular business.
Yeah.
The fact that this business is an impulse buy business. And what was the
uniqueness of how the shopping center split into 4 different parcels, and so the immense size of that parcel.
Okay.
It gives us a few different reasons to set it differently.
All right, so is your motion to grant both of these waivers, or are you just doing one?
Just the first one.
Okay. All right.
2 to 3.
Allow 3 instead of 2.
Yeah.
Okay, did anybody have any, before we do, actually, why don't we do a second on that?
Mike Gagan, I will second that motion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, can we have a vote on this?
Well, were there any comments?
Oh,
from
any
anybody?
comments, excuse me. Okay, hearing none, we'll have a vote. The chairman votes yes. Kyle,
Yes. Kyle Bergson, yes.
Mike,
Mike Gagan, yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Scott,
No,
okay. And just for the general public, Bill Talcott is our alternate, and he can make comments, but when all the other members are there, he cannot vote. However, if one of the other members is absent, then he comes in as a sitting member of the committee. So anyway, the vote here is 4-1-0. The 0 being an abstain.
Okay.
Okay.
I did not ask you, I'm sorry, if you wanted to place any conditions on the approval of that waiver. I can't think of any that you would want to. They're going to have to submit an updated site plan, but that's a given. So I couldn't really think of any other conditions you might want to impose, so.
Jen, are there any regulations as far as the brightness of these internally illuminated signs?
Yeah, the internally illuminated signs, there's no overall brightness in our current bylaw. We definitely do not allow semi-translucent or translucent white or light colored backgrounds. And that is why Patrick, I think, pointed out that on the freestanding sign, the one in most discussion here, that will be basically die cut. So at night, you'll see the round symbol. You won't see the white around it. You'll just see that business symbol kind of shining at you. So that is in the bylaw, but there is not a specific foot candle or wattage in our current sign bylaw. As you all know, one of our goal things years ago, which we haven't accomplished yet, is a full revision to the sign bylaw, which we will be, or I will be getting underway with you for fall town meeting.
Okay, so now we need a motion.
And that would be on the second one, to allow a sign outside the limit of the specific
Okay.
parcel. But in this case, obviously, still within the subject development.
So, Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion that we allow a sign to be outside the area due to the fact that this whole site is developed as one large shopping center and unfortunately divided into 4 parcels after the fact, but still recognized as one overall development.
Thank you, Kyle. Do we have a second to that?
Mike Gagan, I will second that with the same ideas of the property had started out as one large development. And for these purposes, we do think it fits.
Okay. Are there any comments from the board on this? Hearing none, then we'll have a vote. Kyle,
Kyle Bergerson, aye.
Mike,
Mike Gagan, aye.
Scott,
No.
no, Bob,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So the vote passes 5-0-0.
Four.
Oh, 5, 4, 1.
I mean,
so-
excuse me, 4-1-0. Sorry.
All right, so a motion to, the site plan review, we did ask them to include an application for site plan review. And that would be a revision just to show those sign locations that you've just voted. So, just to be very, very clean, let's, just do a motion to approve a site plan revision, the only change being showing the locations of the signs you've just approved.
I'll make that motion.
Do I hear a second?
Mike Gagan, I'll second that.
Okay. Any conversation? Hearing none. Bob,
Aye.
Kyle,
Kyle Bergerson, aye.
Mike,
Mike Gagan, aye.
Scott,
Aye.
chair votes aye. So maybe this time I can get it right. It's 5-0-0.
And then just a motion to close.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, a second?
Kyle
Kyle,
Bergerson.
Kyle seconded. Any conversation? Hearing none, chair votes aye. Kyle,
Kyle Bergerson, aye.
Bob?
Aye.
Scott? Oh, he says aye. Okay, Mike?
Aye.
Right. So the vote is 5-0-0. Thank you very much and good luck on your endeavor.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Okay, so the next item we have up here is let's see, is 68 Providence Road, Atlas Box. And in accordance with the provisions of the Sutton zoning bylaw, section 4.c, site plan approval, and section 3.a, use special permit, the planning board will hold a hearing on the applications of Atlas Box LLC. The applications propose to use the existing building located at 68 Providence Road for office space, light manufacturing / assembly space, and warehouse space. The hearing will be held on Monday, January 25, 2021 at 7:10. This is 7:10. I guess it's more like 7:50 planning board time. So I guess the first thing we need is somebody from Atlas Box to make a statement as to why they want to do this. And please identify yourself.
Sure. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name is Brian Melissi. I'm an engineer with Whitman and Bingham Associates, and we are here representing Atlas Box. On the call is Frank Tavares of Atlas Box, in case there's any questions regarding the actual business inside the building. What we have tonight in front of you is a request for a special permit and a site plan review for change in use at 68 Providence Road. It is the former Mayfield Plastics building. Atlas Box has recently acquired the building. They do own the property now. Again, it was used for, this formerly used as the Mayfield Plastics business. Jen, there isn't an as-built plan that we gave you. If you
Want me
want
to share that?
if you could, I have it ready to go as well, if you would rather.
Got it. Let me just get over there.
Sure.
Turn. Okay, oops. Oops, geez, stop that. Nope.
Number D.
Give me a minute. There we go.
There you go.
So this is a site as-built plan that was generated back in 2004 when the property was originally developed. And as the proposal goes, Atlas Box is not proposing any changes to the exterior of the building. The site is 6.66 acres in size. There's an existing 60,000 square foot building on there, the rectangle that you see. And it's serviced by a couple of loading docks to the north of the building, right up there. And the employee parking and vehicular parking along the front of the building along Providence Road. Again, there are no changes to the exterior part of the building. Atlas Box is proposing to fit up, if you will, the existing space inside the building. The breakdown of the space is approximately about 4,000 square feet of office, about 21,000 square feet of what we're calling light manufacturing / assembly space, and the remaining 35,000 feet will be warehouse space. When we put those uses to the parking table in the town of Sutton, it calculates that we would require 62 spaces in order to meet the zoning. If you look at the site plan, we have approximately 56 existing spaces. And so we are asking for a waiver to reduce that number of parking by 6 spaces. In talking with Frank Tavares from Atlas Box, there's only going to be approximately 15 employees that will be located here. So from a use standpoint, there's really plenty of parking on the site. And I know in the past, working with the town of Sutton, if we were required to find a home for 6 additional spaces, there was plenty of room on the site where we could do that. So we would welcome the condition if the waiver were to be granted. If we could land bank or show you an area where we could put those spaces if required. Because of the change in use, it's really an existing manufacturing facility out there with the plastics business. However, with the change of use, we also have to request site plan review. And I think Jen could probably go over her letter that she wrote to the board when she commented on this. And a lot of it had to do with some of the information that would typically go into a site plan that's really not shown on this as-built plan. Now, however, like I said before, we're not changing anything. So we did kind of put that down as a waiver, just to be on the safe side for all the the individual items that are typically involved for a site plan. Again, I know it was brief. We are tied into the municipal sewer system here. We're tied into the municipal water system here. Stormwater is handled entirely on site with a series of catch basins, drain manholes, and open detention basins. I am not aware of any issues on the site as far as stormwater related items or sewer issues. So we do think that the site as it sits currently is working fine. I know it was brief, Mr. Chair, but I'll kick it back to you for any questions that we may answer.
Do any members of the board have any questions of Mr. Milisicki? Jen, do you have, oh, Bob? Oh. Jen, do you have any comments here?
Sure. I do not, I apparently did not add my review letter to this file. Sorry, oh, actually, wait a minute. Yes, it is. There it is. Brian's correct. Obviously, when you read my review letter, it looks like somebody's not doing their homework, but Brian has done his homework. There's really, he submitted an as-built plan. There's no changes proposed to this building, but these things are not shown on the plan. So, if the board sees fit to act favorably on this, they should first vote to allow waivers from these items not shown on the plan or require that they be added to the plan if the board feels it's important in this case. I wanted to stress that we only had Atlas Box apply for the trucking service warehousing use because there is already a use permit tied to this site for manufacturing, and that use permit will remain because it's my understanding from talking to Frank Tavares and Len McAleer from Atlas, who I believe is also on this meeting call, that some form of manufacturing will still continue at this site, though it might be a very minor part of the operations for the time being, that they would be more warehousing and trucking from the site heavy here for the time being. Thus, the only 15 employees at the current time. So I don't see any of these things that I've listed as a huge issue of any kind, but you do want to either require even through a condition that these things be added, or it's an existing building, you're not changing anything, and you could waive having to show these things on the plan. And then, as you know, every time we do a special permit for use, you're going to actually want to make these findings before you move forward with any action on the special permit for the use. So you have both site plan approval here and a use special permit. And then you just need to heed that you want to think about any conditions that you should add to the permit. And I would suggest you had at least one departmental comment, particularly from the building commissioner, that needs to be, so this needs to be a condition that prior to occupying the structure, you have to have an existing building review by a registered design professional for compliance with the state building code. And I believe that might have been the fire department was good at this time, though that will fold right into the review. And all the taxes are paid, which is always great to know. So
So I have a question for the applicant. You're planning to build 4,000 square feet of office space in this building that does not exist at this time,
Huh?
right? There's no office space in here now?
Hi, can you hear me? This is Frank.
yes,
ahead.
Frank, we can
All
hear
right.
you.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Frank.
The 4,000 square feet of offices exists today. That's the office that it's inside, right in the front of the building. That used to be used by Mayfield Plastics.
And this,
But we're not adding anything. We're just utilizing the 4,000 square feet of office inside the existing building.
Okay, so is this being, will this be occupied by some new employees, or they're gonna be coming, sharing the building with what you have on 146?
You'll be a combination of both. Right now with COVID, we're trying to spread out as many people as we can.
All right,
And the first use of this facility would be for the existing office staff to be able to have the adequate space and protection that we need.
so I know this plan came through when I was on the planning board, and a lot of the stuff that we always require in these prints seems to be missing. I'm wondering why that is. Have we gotten more diligent over time, perhaps?
well, this is an as-built, so apparently we were just so happy to have us Ralph Cross up and rolling and in there that we I guess do not scrutinize the as-built with as much verve as we usually do. Plus, a number of those things are not always shown on the as-built. It's more really to kind of pin down the building and parking locations and drainage and stuff. So, but yeah, things like the north arrow and some of that stuff should be on here regardless.
Maybe it was on the design, it was on the design package. This is.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of all these
Okay.
elements were on the original design plan, without a doubt.
Through the chair, Wally, and Scott, I remember, the building being built, and it was state of the art. And we were lucky to have them in town. I didn't know that the plastics company has moved on, and Atlas Box chooses to stay in Sutton, so I'm supportive of that. But we do have to take the opportunity to get all the things that are missing we can have them updated. It shouldn't be hard or expensive because it all exists somewhere. And I want to make sure that John Kuchar, our building inspector, is happy. We give him instructions, and he's giving clear instructions to us that he wants to have registered design professional for compliance with the state building code. And I'm ready to move forward on this. Happy to have Atlas staying in town.
Mike, do you have any comments?
No, not at this time. I mean, it does seem to be pretty similar use of the building. Again, it's not changing anything outside, which a lot of times we're concerned with. I do want to kind of ask the other board members about the home parking spaces. Is, you know, the ones that have been here in the past, is that 56 sufficient? I know they've mentioned they could set aside 6 or 8 other spots somewhere if needed. And I just want to hear from the other board on that.
I would be inclined to say as a condition of approval that if they're parking on Providence Road and clogging up traffic or other things with these extra cars, then they'd have to make some arrangements inside to get the parking straightened out. That's how I would say that it's probably fine. I notice most parking lots are underutilized, so I'll see how it goes. We have to make changes in the future. We should be, give ourselves that ability.
Good planning. We've got 6 in our pocket.
Yeah.
If we need it.
I have a question for, I guess, Mr. Tavares. What are the hours of operation over here?
This will be between 6 a.m. and 7 p.m. the latest. So it'll be like a 1.5 shift type operation.
Oh, okay.
One long shift.
Monday through Friday, Frank, or every day?
Probably half a day on Saturdays,
Okay. Okay.
but not all the time.
Kyle, do you have any comments?
I have no different comments that have already been stated by other board members.
Okay, Bill?
No, I have no problem with the waiver regarding the extra, the parking and, yeah, I was on the board when Mayfield Plastics was building this, and Jen, real quick, what happened to Mayfield Plastics?
I think I knew the answer to this question. I'm sorry, I've got grandma brain.
You shared it with me in that they were making parts, and one of their major clients was the aircraft industry.
There we go.
Okay. Yeah, that was it. I do remember that.
And
Well,
because
anyway,
obviously because of the COVID thing, and nobody's ordering any aircraft, their primary clients just stopped.
Actually, it happened prior to that. Okay, I don't want to hold up the applicant. No problem.
Boy, I'm glad you remembered that, Wally. It takes our octogenarians to keep our, 50-somethings in place.
Yeah. Okay. So we need a motion.
Okay. So let's do order of operations. Okay. So let's do your waiver requests first, and then actually, why don't we vote the use first? Because if you decide the use is not appropriate at this location, there's probably no reason to do anything else. So here's the findings you need to think about when you're thinking about trucking service and warehousing use at this location. So if you can just go through items 1 through 5 and just comment on whether you think trucking service and warehousing is appropriate at this specific location with these 5 criteria in mind. And then as soon as you make the findings, we can do the motion to approve the special permit for this use with any conditions you feel are appropriate. And then we'll do the waivers and vote on the site plan itself.
What's the underlying zone here?
The underlying zoning is, that's a good question. What is that?
I should have mentioned it. It's OLI. It's office.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's just village is only like 1 lot over, but yes, office light industrial.
So we made this part of Sutton OLI, huh?
We did.
We did. Okay. I'll believe you. So I make a motion, we grant the permit for Atlas Box to be located at 68 Providence Road, and finding that the use is appropriate for the site, as this is an OLI district, and this is the type of use that's allowed in that district. There is public sewage available and water, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The effect on the neighborhood is negligible, had an operation in similar practice now for quite a few years. And that the nuisance and hazard to vehicles or pedestrian would not be increased by the operation and trucking. And that the structure is in condition to be used and utilized to support the operation of their business.
Second.
Okay, do we have anybody out in the Zoom world that has any comments on this? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, relative to number 4, Frank or Len, can you talk about just for a minute how many truck trips you anticipate to and from this site on a daily basis?
It will be probably in the neighborhood of 6 to 8 trucks max. Most days will probably be 4 trucks throughout the 12-hour period.
So we have it on the record.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you have your motion and your second.
Okay. Any comments on the motion?
Do we, I'm sorry, Wally, through the chairman, do we need to have that condition for the building inspector added on
No,
here?
we'll do that in the site plan approval.
Okay, okay.
So this is just for to grant the special permit for the trucking service and warehousing use specifically to Atlas Box at this location.
Okay, okay.
Okay, Bob?
Aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Kyle?
Kyle Bergson, aye.
Mike?
Mike Gagan, aye.
Chair votes aye. The vote is 5-0-0
Awesome.
for the appropriateness of the specific use.
All right.
Okay, now we get into the conditions.
Waivers first.
Waivers, excuse me.
Okay. These are the waivers, so we can kind of go down them one by one if you want and just say, yeah, we want to grant it, or you need to just fix the plan. So, and that would become, I would assume, a condition of your approval to submit a plan that includes A, F, or O, whatever ones you think are important. So I don't know who wants to lead that charge.
I'll read them off.
Mm-hmm.
This is Bob Largis, and I'd like to see this plan have parking and loading. We have that now, but we need a locus plant.
So
north
A.
arrow, and
A.
C lines.
Mm-hmm.
A, I'm sorry. B, we need the current names on it. C is the abutters are not across the street. D, no lot area abutting land uses in location. E, no height or exterior entrances indicated. F, no screening to show for the dumpster. G, no lighting information. H, no signage. M, no zoning district boundaries within 500 feet. O, no parking calculation table. P, no architectural plans provided.
We don't need that, do we?
Yeah, I thought he's just reading them out just so we can
Okay.
think about them, and then we'll say which ones you want and which ones you don't.
Okay.
Q is no parking or loading spot sign size and calculation information provided. And S, provided additional waiver requests. So
So maybe just approach it, Bill, where you were going with which ones you don't think are necessary, considering this is an existing building that's not being built new.
I'm going with, I don't think we need P.
You don't need P, okay? So you would waive P. What other ones would you waive, if any?
That's all that jumps out at me.
Scott?
How about 3 on the top?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Is that a given?
Yeah. So yes, I think you guys already decided. Majority I heard said you were, that would be on the list of waivers, Scott, with what you said, with them having to show on the updated plan where the reserve spots would be.
If
Right.
needed.
Yeah.
So
So nothing
Jen,
else?
Jen, could I just, a question for you, please?
Sure.
With all of these different pieces here for the site plan review, given the situation of an existing building and all, is it, in your opinion, necessary to go back and do all of these for the future, or are we asking them to do steps that really aren't necessary?
Well, here's the way I think about it. Think of some past projects you've did, immediate past projects. For instance, Manny's Appliance. Remember Manny's Appliance? Remember the guy across the street who just wanted to sell by appointment only? You've had several building reuse projects. So I think you want to be consistent with what you required on their plans for what you require on this plan. So I just think you just want to be very consistent with that. So it's more consistency than anything else. So I would agree wholeheartedly that you don't need architectural plans for a building that's already standing. You don't really need the height of a building that's already standing. It's up to you whether you need to see where exterior entrances are. That's a very simple thing to add to the plan. And F, you do need to know if you're okay with the dumpster where it's shown without screening. That would be a waiver to not screen that dumpster. And if you don't screen the dumpster, then you don't get to show the screening.
Well, we don't know if the dumpster's screened or not.
Right. I mean, right now it's not.
Well, okay.
Don't we have everybody else screening their dumpsters?
Well, you got to look at the site plan. Let me show it to you and kind of how it sits. Brian or Frank or Len, for 68 Providence Road, when this was the location of the Mayfield dumpster too, wasn't it?
Yes, this is Frank. There was a trash compactor right where it says trash compactor. That has actually been removed, and we don't plan on having the trash compactor there at this time.
Okay.
So the only trash removal that's on site currently is a small, either 6 or 8 yard small container behind the overhead, the ramp that has a drive-in, which is, you can't see it from the road.
Okay, so that should be, so that update should be made to the plan. This should be removed, and you should be showing the dumpster where it is and where you intend it to be.
And through the chair, because I've been on the board too long, we thought there was 4,000 square feet of office space. We haven't been there since whenever this was approved. I'm happy to hear it's still there. Sometimes, to Mike's question, is sometimes we go into buildings and a whole different business is in there. The place has been completely changed. The fire department sometimes has to do things that someone did since we last looked at it. It's a great opportunity for us to have everything. North is still north. And it's not hard stuff to do, but it's for us to do our job, to be diligent. When tenants move, into different pieces of property. So
Well
Bob,
said.
did that, what you just said indicate you want maybe even to show kind of the dotted lines where the office is as opposed to the other areas?
no, I believe that there's 4,000 feet there.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to be clear.
John Kuchar goes in there and finds, 2,000 feet. Something's wrong. I don't think that was that. Yeah, it's just, it keeps us, keep the bar high.
Okay, and letter O, there was no parking calculation table technically provided, but in the narrative, Brian Melissi did do the calculations for parking. So I, of course, am totally fine with them waiving O, having provided the calculations in their narrative.
Okay.
Okay. Sounds good. So the items that we're waiving would be O and P.
And then the parking, and I believe Scott's wording was
In the bank if needed.
that they show the potential future spaces if needed. So the banked
Yeah.
spaces.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, so those would be your waivers, I guess, nothing else.
Yep.
Does the board agree? Does any member of the board disagree with that? Can we have a motion to approve this with the waivers?
Well, to grant the waivers.
Grant the waivers, excuse me.
The approval will be a separate motion.
Make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it, Mike Gagan.
Okay. Do we have any conversation on this? Do we have anybody out there in the Zoom world that wants to make a comment? Okay, hearing none, I guess we'll have a vote. Chair votes yes. Bob?
Yes.
Mike?
Mike Gagan, yes.
Kyle?
Kyle Bergson, yes.
Scott?
Yes.
Vote passes 5-0-0.
And your last, well, you're not your last motion, but your second to last motion would be to grant site plan approval. And then you need your conditions. So you do standard condition 1, so approval of all other departments, boards, applicable department boards and committees. And then I would stress that in particular, the building department and actually maybe do that as a separate condition. So just standard condition number 1, the building commissioner compliance with his review comment. And I can write that out if you want, what he said in his review comment. And then that the site plan be, an amended site plan be submitted, including the items you did not waive. And that includes signature lines, because the board should sign the plan even though it is an existing building with the new owner information, et cetera. And then whatever else you want to add.
That's enough.
Well, I'll make a motion that we grant the site plan approval for 68 Providence Road, Atlas Box, with the following comments: that all applicable department, committees, and town departments requirements are in effect, that the parking as shown is sufficient, and if it in the future found not to be sufficient, that additional parking provisions will be provided. Number 2, that the applicant submit an amended site plan showing all the variances not allowed with signatures, and that the building department comments on 780 CMR provisions be provided prior to occupancy.
Second.
Any comments?
No.
Okay, hearing none, I guess, anybody out there have a comment? Hearing none, we'll have a vote. Chair votes aye. Bob?
Aye.
Mike,
Mike Gagan, aye.
Kyle,
Kyle Bergerson, aye.
Scott,
Aye.
the vote passes 5-0-0.
Make a motion to close the hearing.
Second,
Okay, Bob seconded it. Any comment? Hearing none, chair votes aye. Mike,
Mike Gagan, aye.
Bob,
aye.
Kyle,
Kyle Bergerson, aye.
Scott,
Aye.
vote passes 5-0-0. So. now
Very
we can-
much.
Thank you. Thank you
I
for
just have
your,
I just have a question. I thought they changed the name. Isn't their name different than Atlas Box?
Alice Box still exists. It's one of many divisions of the group.
Okay,
That's the real estate company that owns the building is
Great.
Alice Box LLC.
great. Thanks. That's good.
okay. Thank you for coming in here and good luck with this endeavor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, the next thing up is a Form A.
There are no Form As.
No Form A is great.
Hallelujah.
Endorse plans.
There are no plans.
Oh, okay. Now we have
We just leave those on the agenda in case any drop in last minute.
Oh, okay. The next item here is a conceptual plan Form A for Wilderness Drive. Is anybody
Right.
out
You
there?
have both Joe and Dante DeLiso present. They can take themselves off mute and I will share to the
Oh,
screen
there's John. Okay.
what they have provided for tonight's meeting. All right, hold on.
Got it.
I just gotta get back to where we're going here. All right, action items, conceptual discussion. All right. So, let me zoom in on this. So Joe, you can jump in as necessary. But, all right, so this is all the DeLiso's property. This is the school campus right here. I'm sorry, that's not, yes, that is the school campus right there. And so right across is Wilderness Drive, which is a private roadway. And this is the DeLiso's property here. As you can see, they would like to break off lot 1 and lot 2. And this is conceptual, not totally cast in stone, but this is the general idea. And the reason before you tonight is as they're having the Form A plan prepared, we need to talk about legal frontage, legal access, and adequacy of access. So we need to kind of pin that down. So there is, as is noted here, over 660 feet of frontage on the existing lot and 24.6 acres. They would potentially have 250 feet for this second lot and leave 412 for the existing home. The problem is this 250 feet, as you can see, has a significant amount of wetlands. So the first thing I did not ask Joe, and I'll apologize myself, was when I looked at this, I assumed nobody would be trying to access over Boston Road, that you'd be trying to get to the house from lot 2 to lot 2 from Wilderness Drive, and that would require the board to make a finding of safe and adequate access. And then the board would also have to comment on whether they would even allow this 250 feet out here to be used as frontage if access isn't proposed from there, because frankly, it's fairly illusory, though you might have just enough room to squeak by if you had to, so then maybe you allow it to be used as legal frontage, but you vote in open meeting that they be allowed to use Wilderness Drive if that's the intent, if you find it safe and adequate. So let's first jump to Joe or Dante to just state exactly what the access intent is for this potential new home. Will you come off Boston Road or is your intent to come off Wilderness Drive?
Yeah, thank you very much, Jen. And as you pointed out, this was hello board. Thank you for taking this up. I want to say, as you point out, this was at this point, very conceptual. And the background on this is, and the reason my son's on is that what we're doing here is the front lot that we're talking about, this lot 1, is where our existing home is. It's a gray salt box with some
Oh, yeah.
horse, white fencing, etc., like that. And I'll wait till Jen brings this up.
Oops, sorry. So this is the existing home here.
Okay.
Yeah, so you could see, yeah, there's the existing property and there's the existing home and that you could, Jen, if you can bring it back a little bit, then you can actually see the property lines. So what we're doing is my son and his family, we're talking about are going to take this front piece with the home and the property and what you see. And then my wife and I want to build a home to essentially retire in back around where Jen is. There's fields back there, hay fields. And towards the back of the hay fields as it gets closer to the woods. So that's what the purpose of all of this is. The idea of using the 50 feet of frontage up there, which Jen mentioned is illusionary, really doesn't matter to us. We could put the line in the towards the back there right across. Our intention is to access off Wilderness, to essentially come back right about, if Jen would come up, there's a gas line there and we already have actually a drive, if you will, that we carved out many years ago that goes back into that area.
Yeah.
You know, I keep tractors and stuff like that. We use that back. That's where we've been maintaining the field. So our intention is to kind of come off that and then put the house right about there. So that's our intent, is to come off Wilderness. And then we're going to be sharing the lot, essentially. So Jen, did that?
Yes, perfect.
And we have no, I mean, we're perfectly happy to cut it in the back. The only reason that original idea is that we had the idea that we probably might have to have 250 on Boston Road to conform it, right? But we really have no intention of trying to build a drive all the way through there.
Well, that's good, because I was making a horrible assumption. Every assumption is horrible. So, but it was at least correct in this case.
Yes, absolutely correct. There's no logic to do that, especially since there's, you know, half a dozen homes down at the other end of Wilderness.
Right.
Yeah. By the way, we did approach both the police and fire departments. I spoke to both chiefs who said they supported it and we're happy to support the concept. They said, go for it.
All right. So we did get, here, let me show you, an email from the fire department today. And did ask the board members if they could to go out to the site and take a look themselves, because whether the frontage remains as it is shown and you make an alternative, a finding in the meeting to allow alternative access off of Wilderness Drive, or whether the legal frontage is actually moved to Wilderness Drive and you just take out the frontage on Boston, or acknowledge that that's not really the access point. The board needs to find that the access is safe and adequate. So you can have legal frontage on a private road, but only with the finding that that private road provides safe and adequate access. So you can see from Robin Dresser, who is the district chief, he and the chief are the we referenced in this email. So we took a look at this today. We are good with the width of Wilderness Drive, just have it smoothed out some good sized potholes. And then I don't know which, when you drive up Wilderness Drive, there's kind of almost two side drives into the side property. As far as the driveway entrance, please have that widened, opened up a little bit more, definitely tight right now. Outside of that, we're good to go. Nice spot for a new house. So if you drove out there, you notice there are quite a few potholes. You actually have some more solid pavement almost when you get past the gas line. I don't know, that's kind of unusual. So this is the comments of your main safety department. Fire, the police generally fall in line with the fire because it's the fire that's bringing in the big apparatus and need that clearance. So I don't know if any members had anything to share about their drive.
Yeah, my question is, who owns the Wilderness Drive?
Oh, I can answer that if nobody else can. Wilderness Drive belongs to Bob and Laura McKinnon. They own lot 143, which is the adjoining lot that runs along to the lake. And we have right-of-way access for the full length. We have a lot down on the lake as well. But our deed carries right-of-way access through the whole length.
And so does lot, say, 6, 8, 7, 9, 11, 75. They all have rights of way on Wilderness?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay.
I've never researched like I've researched my, our own right-of-way when we bought the house. But to my understanding, that's fact. But I can't speak to that, to their deeds.
Joe, this is Bob Largest. I did drive down at sunset tonight.
Bob?
For myself, I've been a lot of private roads in Sutton. You set the bar high there. I was amazed how big and inaccessible it is compared to some of the other car paths that we have in town that are private. So I think it's a good spot, a good use of the property. Wish you good luck. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Bob.
I drove, excuse me, I drove up there the other day just to see what it looked like, and I thought it was beautiful. I didn't realize there was so much land back there when I saw the fields and so forth, and the various signs of horse activity. I'd always see them from the front. And I did notice that the road has some unique characteristics, and that, there are some potholes, and it's like kind of settled down. I only went up as far as the power lines. I didn't go all the way into the lake, but, I think it's a good use of the property. It's a beautiful site over there.
Yeah, I have to tell you, we get potholes. We fix them pretty much every year, and then winter comes and they come back.
Yeah.
Like stones.
Yeah.
They grow.
We keep there's a pile of gravel mix, some of that stuff that you see. There's always a pile there, and in the spring we go and we back drag and fix it up. But it is a bit of a battle with the potholes every once in a while.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Mike.
I just want to add, I also did visit the site today. The first time I stopped when it said private way, do not enter. Then after talking to Jen, I realized I need to enter it, so I did. But I agree with all of you that thought it was a beautiful site. There were potholes, but the road going in certainly seemed wide enough. Obviously the fire department believes it is. I thought it was as well. So.
Michael, thank you for observing the sign. I think that was, but in fact, sometimes my wife and I have left a few potholes just to keep the speed down from the guys coming up from the lake.
Reverse speed bumps.
Yeah.
They have been effective. We have one in particular neighbor down there who tends to put his foot on the pedal a little bit too hard.
I'll chime in. I also visited the site, and I remember visiting the site of 10, 15 years ago. I don't remember the road being that wide, so I don't know what happened over 15 years. Maybe it expanded due to getting around the potholes. But I remember when I was on the board about 15 years ago, someone was going to subdivide some property down there. And the board at that time deemed that was not safe and adequate access. And the plan didn't go any farther than that. Does anybody else remember that?
No, I actually thought about that after a while, and I'm thinking, it was farther down, it was in this area.
It was
If you
farther down.
if you want the history, I'll tell you.
Okay.
I can clarify all of that for you. It's Bill, Bill, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. Bill, about 20 years ago, and I hate to tell you, it wasn't 10 or 15, but it was somewhere in that vicinity. Yeah, the person that owned that lot 143 was a fellow and his wife, his name T.A. King.
Yeah, it's TA, yeah.
Yeah, TA had got that. That was all one piece, and it belonged to a family. The Pierce family owned that.
Right.
And then he got, there was a widow, and then he got that from her to subdivide that piece. It has a deed restriction to a single home because he said he wanted to build a home on the lake. So he got that piece and they built a home on the lake. It was TA that started saying that he would subdivide it. TA was also a realtor, as you know. And he had people come in and take down a lot of trees and the walls and stuff like that. And that was his intent. Now, there was some argument with him because I know when we bought it, my wife and I bought it, we understood that 143 had a single home deed restriction on it. And that was important to us when we purchased the property along with others. But as TA wanted to support that, he hired some people and widened the road.
Okay.
Okay. And then what happened is he lost the property and the town got involved and realized that TA had done something. He sold lot number, I think it's 8, to a friend of his, and they did some additional work without any permitting, got him in trouble, I think with conservation. Jen may remember some of this. And there was a battle between TA and his friend and conservation and such. And they went back and forth and then they had to improve the drainage and such. And that's how the drainage came. So you're absolutely right. It was narrower at the time. Now it's it's basically a full-size road. But the intent at TA's part of that was they were trying to get it to develop it. But gratefully we were able to, that stopped. And one of my concerns here is that we have no intention or desire to see that developed wilderness. But gratefully right now, so does our neighbor, the McKinnons, who own 143.
I guess we can thank TA for doing something down there, right?
So Jen, what's the precedent as far as, I know on Horse Pasture Lane, it was a similar thing. The frontage was on, in that case, was on Hutchinson Road, but they accessed the property through Horse Pasture Lane.
That was a whole separate issue because that was an approved subdivision and the board specifically approved subdivision for that lot off of Horse Pasture, and then they accessed it a different way. So that was slightly different. In this case, this would just be a Form A lot. This is not going to be a subdivision plan. So this will be a Form A lot that they would bring to you. And they would either kind of leave it like is shown now, and they'll either say that the legal frontage is Boston Road, but of course, then they need to assert that you could actually get from Boston Road into this lot. It's not illusory because of the wetlands. There is a little space where they could go, but they'd rather not. They'd rather come off Wilderness, in which case you could approve the Form A as shown, as long as you consider Wilderness to be safe and adequate as an alternate access, and you'd vote that in the Form A approval, to approve the Form A, legal frontage on Boston Road, but access off Wilderness because of whatever. Or they can leave it like it is or eliminate the frontage on Boston, either way, and just be very clear that we believe the legal frontage is the X feet on Wilderness Drive, and we believe it to be safe and adequate. That's the legal frontage on that private way. And the board would say, all right, we consider it safe and adequate, or we consider it safe and adequate if you do this to it. And you would make the motion to approve the Form A once it comes in. So,
But there's nothing in our subdivision rules and regulations that says you need to access it over the legal frontage.
no, there is. There is, unless the board makes a finding in open meeting that access is allowed from another way for specific reasons. In this case, it would be to reduce or eliminate wetland impact, obviously.
Right. They are allowed one wetland crossing no matter what.
They are, but usually when you talk about something being illusory, it has to be like impossible to cross. So, I mean, this one, I don't know. I don't know the nature of the wetland. Could you bridge it? Could you get a permit through it? Could you get a driveway through it under X square feet of filling or disturbance? I don't know.
They could also, I'm not telling anybody what to do, but they could also tweak the lines to leave enough space there so it wouldn't just be illusory. Because I'm under the thought here that I think if we grant it, or if it's granted the Form A, we don't grant anything, I guess. I think we want the frontage on Boston Road, and then the access. I don't think we want to get into a situation to say it's safe and adequate and open up other subdivisions, any other lots being cut down Wilderness Road in the future.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. So you would have the legal frontage on Boston Road that's clearly an adequate public way, but you would allow alternative access over Wilderness.
Right. I don't want
because it's safe and adequate for this one lot at this one location.
Right. I don't want to go and
I can
say
chime
it's
in.
adequate, because I think you're opening up a whole nother can of worms, and you don't know safe and adequate today might not be safe and adequate next week.
Yep. Okay.
And to hang our hat on using Wilderness as opposed to Boston Road, that's a funky intersection right there on Boston Road. If you kind of, I think it wouldn't be as safe if there was a driveway at that intersection. Did you come around so close to the house and you're on the state highway that goes down towards the Blue Jay? It's much safer for access to this house beyond Wilderness. It wouldn't be safer. It would not be safer to have a driveway on Boston Road there, even if there wasn't a wetland there.
Yeah, I don't think Bill disagrees with you on that, Bob.
No.
I think he's just thinking from the legal perspective.
Yeah, no, smart to have the rent frontage there, but it's moved. But the house will be accessed from Wilderness. It's safer.
For a number of reasons, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that approach. I think that's less risk for this roadway in this neighborhood going forward and less risk for the board, really.
Right. Yep.
Towards Bill's point, it appears there's no house on lot 143 at this time, right?
There's one down near the water, I think, right?
Yes,
Yep.
Oh, there is, okay.
on the water.
STA's house that he built.
Then where's the big house on the left going down?
It's on the next road.
Is it really?
You can see it. Yeah. No, it is a left. What's that called? Goes off to the left. Is that also called Wilderness? I don't know.
Is that?
I was just going to pull up the aerial, but I can't.
So you've answered it. So lot 1 lot 143 would not be able to be further subdivided.
Well, maybe
It's
it's on
deed
Mary.
restricted. That's a deed restriction, right?
Deed
Oh.
restriction.
Yes, it is.
Maybe it's on Miriam.
Yeah, you see that house.
I think it's Miriam.
Yeah, you see it on the end, in the woods.
That's the big house down there?
Right. And it looks towards Wilderness this time of the year.
This one? Here, let me zoom in a little.
It's down in there somewhere.
Big house.
Yeah, that could be it. Maybe it's on 19 there, off of Miriam.
You go down Merriam and then go right here.
Right here?
That might be it.
Or you can see it from Wilderness.
That looks about right.
This
Yep.
time of year, yeah. Don't see it in the summertime.
That's right. And that, you guys are mentioning, that's accessed off Miriam.
Okay,
Oh, good.
I understand.
This is the existing home on
Oh, yeah.
143.
Oh, okay, I know the house.
Yep.
You know what? I was wondering how that happened. I live on the lake, so I go by it all the time.
Yeah, so you can see Miriam swing around here, and that's the access to that one. But it's
Okay.
closer to Wilderness than it is to Miriam, or as close.
Right.
And judging by the structure size, that's what I was looking at.
Oh, sorry.
How are they moving forward? They want you to, how are you gonna get power onto the house? There's no telephone, there's no wire. on that, right?
Bob, I honestly haven't bridged that. I haven't crossed that bridge yet.
Okay, it's a bridge.
It's a bridge, all right.
Yeah.
So how is the house on 143 lot powered?
There's power
wires
lines.
by the lake.
It's down by the lake.
Down by the
There's
lake?
wires that go along the shore there,
Hmm.
but yeah, no matter which way he goes, he's got some trenches coming, which is good. In the ice storms, he'll have power.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah. Utilities are another issue. All I can tell you is my wife's committed to this.
Oh, it's kind of nice to be on the
Motion to
same proximity
Motion
to your
to
kids.
approve.
Oh,
right.
it's gonna be great.
So we need
Towards that,
a,
so just as a question, Joe, I mean, that's a right of way for you to pass and repass with a car.
Yes.
Are you allowed to make improvements on Wilderness Drive, such as utilities?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've had preliminary, I've had discussion with our neighbors in McKinnon's. And that part of the equation, we don't anticipate any issues.
Yeah, typically when you
But
have a
yeah,
private road and people have the right to pass and repass, they also get kind of the blanket right to use the way for all purposes for which ways are typically used, and that would include provision of utilities to different lots, typically. All right, so what I'm hearing is that the majority of the board believes, with due diligence to the pothole situation, that this could be considered at least alternate access for access to an additional single-family house lot. But certainly from a planner's perspective, I would agree wholeheartedly that you may want to seriously consider having Boston Road clearly be the legal frontage for this lot. So we don't get into the legal question of designating Wilderness as legal access for additional building lots, but alternate access for this one house in this one location and situation. That would just be safer for the whole neighborhood and a good precedent for the board. So So if you have enough input, Joe, you can take that and go finish your Form A plan, and then the board will see you back.
I thank you all for taking the time, especially to come down and look. I appreciate, on behalf of the family, we appreciate it.
Thank you
And,
very much.
We'll see you again soon.
Good night, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, I guess the next item up on our agenda is the adoption of electronic endorsement.
Yay. All right, this is just one more tool in our COVID toolbox, but also should we need it at any point in the future. So we are blessed right now to have a board whose chairman is retired. So I rarely have issues with Wally coming to sign things. And Mike working from home right now is very, and Kyle working from home has been very beneficial, but at some point they might actually go back to an office. Yeah. So this electronic policy is available to all towns within the Commonwealth. And, it's recommended that we, vote to have the ability to sign documents, approvals, things like that electronically, should we need it. Whether we'll need to use it or not is a different matter, but this would just be just another tool in the toolbox, even especially during COVID, but even during, you approve something on a Monday, you get a massive snowstorm for the next 13 days, and you need to get that thing on file within 14 days, you're covered. So, I believe I provided you the form of the motion that the motion needs to take. If you don't have that, let me know, I'll call it up.
I can read it. I'll make a motion that the planning board here recognizes and accepts the provisions of Mass General Law C110G regarding electronic signatures, and that its members will henceforth execute documents either with electronic signatures or with wet ink signatures, and that both will carry the same legal weight and effect.
Okay, Scott seconded. Any conversation on this? Hearing none, we'll have a vote. The chair votes aye. Mike?
Mike Egan, aye.
Bob?
Bob Largis, aye.
Scott?
Aye.
Kyle?
Kyle Bergerson, aye.
Okay, the vote passes 5-0-0. So we'll be able to have that. Okay, the next item on the document is the Stockwell Farm covenant extension.
Stockwell Farm, you'll recall, is the 4-lot open space subdivision off the first bad corner on Leland Hill Road as you go north from Central Turnpike. That was previously owned by the Wentz family, and they sold it to the Romeos. We had pre-construction on this site last week or the week before. And one of the things that came up in pre-construction was that their covenant, which was originally recorded by the Wentzes way long time ago before the definitive subdivision plan could be filed, has of course expired. So we just need to do a motion to extend the performance date on the covenant. There are also 2 other things. I just will revise that draft form I gave you. We'll just note the new owner's name. And then, I'm sorry, I forget the other thing. New owner's name, performance date. Oh, and for some reason, there was a typo on the original covenant that used the date of, somebody was thinking about 146 because it said 146 Dodge Hill Road. And it's not, it's 137 Dodge Hill Road. So in that covenant revision, we would fix the typo specifically as well. Just call it out. So if anybody's looking at the registry documents, and instead of just using the new address in the lead paragraph, which we'll do, that we specifically call it out so people can see what happened there. It was just a typo. So we just need a motion to extend the covenant and to correct the address and show the new ownership. And then you just need to decide what date you want. They're starting construction now. It's a several 100-foot long roadway, but not very long. So about, I wouldn't give it more than a year anyways.
Somebody want to offer that motion?
What's the address again?
137 Dodge Hill Road is the original parcel. You now have that as open space, and you have 4 lots on Stockwell Farm Road. So I would just use the 137 because that's what's referenced in the covenant.
All right, I make a motion to amend this covenant and extend it for Stockwell Farm with an address correction of 137 Dodge Hill Road, and make the covenant extension 1 year from today, January 25th, 2022.
Second.
Okay, so any comment on this? Hearing none, the chair votes aye. Mike?
Mike Gagan, aye.
Bob?
Aye, Bob Logis.
Kyle?
Kyle Bergson, aye.
Okay, Scott?
Aye.
So the vote passes 5-0-0. So I guess the next thing we have, the proposed bylaw changes. And we go through this and I do a little bit of
Mr.
history.
Chairman, can we just tackle those minutes first before we get exhausted?
Yeah, okay,
I'm already exhausted, sorry.
yeah. We need a motion to accept the minutes from January 4. Oh, okay, Bob, second? Do we have a second?
Mike Gagan, I'll second it.
Okay, any comment? Hearing none, chair votes aye. Scott?
Aye.
Kyle?
Kyle Bergson, aye.
Mike?
Mike Gagan, aye.
Bob?
Bob Logis, aye.
Okay. All
All
right.
right. How do you want me to do this, Mr. Chairman? You want me to share the draft articles and then just kind of walk through them? How do you want me to do this?
So
I think
just a
so.
question. We have a lot of people that look like they're in the audience. Are waiting for these bylaws discussion?
I think we still have some people from Atlas Box and potentially Craft Group here. Maybe listen in on how we're doing this because they certainly have an interest in some of these articles.
Okay,
Their new site.
fair enough.
I'm sorry, I'm just distracted. Hold on.
So what's the anticipated spring meeting date then? For the-
That's the first thing I'll call up. Thank you. Let me call up geez Louise. Sorry. Let me call up the calendar first and we'll look at that first. That's great. Okay, so here's our town meeting calendar. Right now, town meeting is planned for Saturday, May 15th. It will be an outside town meeting with a rain date, I believe, of the following Saturday.
Outside?
Outside. So you'll be outside on the school complex.
I'll bring
And
the horses.
on Saturday, May 15th. So
Bring a picnic basket, eh?
bring a picnic basket,
Yeah.
yes.
Jen,
So-
you want me to bring your grandson out with the horse and buggy? You can ride.
Yeah.
I'll tell them if they come from California that we can have a horse and buggy ride. All right, so the last day to get warrant articles for the warrant is March 17th. You know the drill. You at least have to have pretty firm draft articles by then. The other reason we need to have them by then is because I've got to advertise an April public hearing right around that same time period, if not before. So, to that end, let us, if you want, kind of go through the list real quick, and then it's up to you. We did We did get an email from some of the people that are on the meeting with these materials. So if you want them to speak to these materials, they can do that. If you just want to absorb those materials yourself and schedule a date to come back to all of these to finalize and pin down these, you can do that as well. That sound like a plan?
Got it.
Yep. Okay. All right, so here's the draft articles, most of which you've seen before. So the first one is to designate the OLI as an area for marijuana businesses because our current marijuana business district is now fully occupied. The second one is to allow buildings to not require the 25-foot separation to the town line in the office light industrial district. This is necessary particularly for the parcels in South Sutton where we're seeing the Blackstone Valley Logistics project that actually we do need to register that filing today. So we'll come back to that if you remind me. Where parcels straddle the town line. It's also germane potentially on the aggregate parcels up in Northeast Sutton. So in these districts, you want to not have to have the 25-foot separation to town line, so you can have the most efficient, fluid kind of development of those properties. Article C is the shift in the zoning district line, and we'll look at the map and talk about that some more as soon as we go through the list. And that would be to provide alternate access to the aggregate property directly to Boston Road. Right now, that access is all zoned rural residential. You cannot access office light industrial uses through the rural residential unless those uses are also allowed in the rural residential. At least with a private roadway, you can't. With a public roadway, you could. Article G is about, well, let me see, with a minimum of blah, blah, blah. All right, so this is the one we have a lawsuit on right now where we have a pre-existing non-conforming lot that is the same size as pretty much all the lots around it. But because the layman who bought it didn't understand the doctrine of merger and zoning changes and grandfathering, they now have a non-buildable lot. So what this change would do was allow somebody to apply for relief when they have a pre-existing non-conforming of these minimum dimensions, if the zoning board makes a finding in a public hearing, as is stated here. Article E is putting in writing what we've discussed, that for a retreat lot, you have to have triple the area, but you do not have to have triple the upland area because a retreat lot just has a single family house on it, period. So if you only need 48,000 square feet for a septic system, house and well on any other rural residential lot, just because it's a bigger lot, you don't need triple the upland area. So Article F is all of those changes we had proposed to the office light industrial district, adding some uses, taking some uses out, clarifying some uses. And Article G is taking out self-storage facilities and its definition. Article H is adding a definition for warehouse distribution because the current definition of trucking service and warehousing is very confusing, and we only can use it right now because we have a written opinion from our building commissioner. Adding breweries, distilleries, and winery definition and that use in the table. J is just administrative, changing the name Board of a Selectmen to Select Board in all the bylaws that reference it. K is the definition of service companies. And then I penciled in on the version that the printed members have in their binders, which is considering whether we would allow an increase to the height of structures in the office light industrial district, which is related to this email we've got. And or whether you allow it carte blanche or under certain circumstances with certain conditions, etc. So that's the list I have. I'm interested if you think any of those articles don't need to move forward for May, or if you think anything needs a revision, or if there's anything missing. And then we have this request from Unified and the Craft group, Unified, who purchased the aggregate parcel and would like us to consider these things and have provided some information. So you do have some representatives present on this meeting. If you wish to just take in the material they've given you and set another date to discuss just bylaws, we can do that, or they're here if you want to chat now.
And what did any of the members of the board have any comment on this?
Who's got the cute baby that I keep
Yeah.
hearing in the?
Is that you, Kyle?
My house.
Oh, that's your house, Bob?
Okay, Grandpa.
Wally, this is Mike Gagan. I would think though, I mean, obviously some people have waited on a line quite a while. We should, give them an opportunity to speak of what area they're looking to talk about and hear what they have to say.
Good idea. Why don't we can go down the list. We got people's names posted up here. And if your name doesn't get called, please speak up or I'll make an appointment.
Len, Mr. Chairman, I just saw Len take off his mute. Len, did you want to, or Ted Fire, did you want to introduce yourselves and kind of lead that discussion? And if so, just tell me if and what you want me to pull up from the materials you sent to us. Okay. Ooh, nice music. Bob, you need to put yourself on mute if you're going to be that loud.
All right.
Is there anybody from the Atlas Box or Unified team that wants to speak to these zoning bylaw requests that they want the board to consider, or would you prefer to do that on a different date? Hello?
Yes, good evening. This is Matt Pekarsky here.
Oh, Matt, okay.
How you doing, Jen?
Good.
I wasn't sure if I see Len and Ted on here as well. I was waiting for them. I don't know if they're having technical difficulty or not, but I can certainly speak to the material that we sent over.
All right, Matt, if you could just introduce yourself and just tell me what and when you want me to share anything.
Sure. So my name is Matthew Pekarsky. I'm with the Craft Group, which is, I guess, technically a sister company or of Unified Global Packaging. It's a joint venture between our companies. So I'm in our construction and development group. Been working on this project for a while since we acquired the parcel recently, and looking at helping helping Unified look at some potential building opportunities. To that end, two of the topics that have been of particular interest to us have been this potential zoning line change, which Jen, I don't know if we want to start with that, if you want to pull up that map that Brian Melissi and his group had put together. I think that best depicts.
I wasn't planning to go out there that time.
I don't know how much detail you may want to get into here, but basically the red line on this graphic here shows the existing office light industrial residential with north generally orientated up here. It's on the easterly side is the OLI, and the residential would be on the western portion of that red line. It's a little difficult to see on here, but the dashed lines represent the internal parcel lines, and then the overall parcel of the former aggregate site that we now own and control is this dark solid line that goes around where Jen's outlining it right now. So the suggested zoning change has been basically shifted. I don't know the exact dimensions. It's probably 400 to 500 feet or so to the left. And the primary purpose is to basically allow us the opportunity to consider a roadway connection towards Boston Road from the site. So where exactly it ties in, there are some constraints along the utility easements that are out there. There's some wetland constraints, as I'm sure you're aware. So there's limited opportunity to tie in currently out there now. So this layout is the line Brian Melissi and his group has looked at it, and it's kind of the optimal location, if you will, in terms of allowing some flexibility to have a roadway connection to Boston Road. Generally speaking, that's the kind of the synopsis of it, if you will. It ties back to the north. If you want to pan up a little there, Jen, it ties back up, and then for those of you familiar with the site, where that kind of turns 90 degrees and returns back in is on that kind of high bluff that's out there, where the power lines split and they go in, two directions in the southerly direction. And that was just, ideally situated just because the terrain out there is such that it's not necessarily developable land anyways, but it just seemed like the logical spot to just tie it back in to provide, that connection I alluded to earlier. From a proximity standpoint, it's kind of difficult to see on this plan, but there is, and Brian, Melissa, if you want to jump in here, there is adequate distance offset from the abutting parcels. I want to say, I'm actually trying to call it up on my plan right now. It was in the neighborhood of 350 or so plus feet, I believe. If you zoom in there, I think that's 380 feet right there would be the offset. And in addition to that, again, if you're familiar with the property, there's quite a bit of topographic relief through there as well, in the neighborhood of probably 60 to 70 feet vertically, where the site is lower than the abutting parcels due to the previous mining activity. Down closer to Boston Road, that parcel down there is about 256 feet. Is what it's roughly sketched in at right now. So.
All right, and I believe you gentlemen did mark these locations in the field. Is that correct?
That is correct. So myself and Beth Whirling, who's also on the call here, we actually went out and used our GIS system just to locate the line as best we could. It's plus or minus 10, 15 feet with a on a cell phone accuracy level, but it's enough to give you a sense. We flagged it with yellow flagging tape starting at Boston Road and working our way back through. Quite honestly, it's pretty thick and dense out there. There's a lot of Russian olive and other really aggressive growing species out there that was difficult. So, but we kind of took opportunities to locate that line as best we could through there and flag it to give some visuals in case anybody wanted to go out and actually, see the location of the proposed line.
I think what's most important is really having this location generally marked on the roadway and this location, so you can kind of see how potential access point would shift. It's my understanding from talking to your crews that this is important because of where you are in terms of sight distance on this curve, and also because of the wetlands over here.
That is correct. Yeah.
So you couldn't really come out here very safely.
Correct. That is correct.
Okay.
And if you're going to try to access this site from Buttonwood, isn't there there's a river in there? So it's
Yeah,
stream anyway.
You can't get there from Buttonwood.
You can't do it without a bridge. Got to build a bridge.
Yes, and the majority of Buttonwood is also zoned residential. So when you get back onto that side, so it'd be the same predicament of crossing through a different zoned area.
So this is a suggestion for, so the parcel that's in between the red and the blue right now, that's all residential. and you're suggesting to move it to the left and maintaining residential to the west of the blue line. That maintains residential.
That is correct. As would the area kind of to the north of where the blue line takes the 90-degree turn, that would all remain residential as well. So
Yeah.
everything west of the power lines, north of that blue line would remain as it's currently zoned as well.
So long. And I kind of look at it, you know.
Okay, so that's a pretty good summary of the zoning.
And just another question, how much acreage is represented by that
Sorry.
trapezoid or whatever you want to call it? Roughly how much acreage is that?
That's a good question. I don't have that off the top of my head, but we can certainly provide that and update this plan and circulate it back. I don't know, Brian, Melissa, if you're still on, if you have that that number handy or not, but if not, we can certainly provide that for you.
No, you know how much is in that wetland, the drill, the water well circle?
Yeah, Matt, this is Brian. Jen, I'd get you that number first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
I can't explain it, but we always knew.
Yeah, I can't see the acreage.
Doesn't say the acreage, all right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get a sense for it, that's all.
But not as much.
We can pull that off easily enough for you though and provide that.
And those long skinny lines, those are the power line easements that are running through there?
Those are the actual power lines. So where the red line that you're seeing on there is for a good portion of the power line easement through the site, the easement is the zoning line. And then it takes this jog right there what Jen's alluding to right now. And then it comes into more in line with the center of the power lines. So our surveyors are tying down the easement locations now with regards to that. So we'll incorporate that. But what you're seeing on there is the actual transmission lines themselves.
And typically, when you have the easement area, you're allowed access through the easement, but not usually structures within the easement, correct? Like if the easement.
Okay, yes. Correct, that is correct. Our understanding of the easements right now, you're talking about from a development standpoint?
Right.
Yes, that is our understanding is we can construct roadways, parking lots, as long as we don't interfere with their maintenance and access of the power lines.
Right. That might be good to understand as well, not just the total acreage of this area, but kind of the usable acreage of this area. You know, that would be good to understand as well, because you're not really impacting all of this as potential development area. Its primary purpose is access, although it may add some additional potential development area.
Yeah, it's difficult on the plan here. Again, we can put it in as reference, but for those that are familiar with the site, kind of closer to where that 90-degree T is, where it tees back into the existing zoning line. That's in the area of Duck and Dog Pond in that area. Two existing resource areas in there too. So to your point, Jen, one, they're not necessarily even developable because they're over the power lines, but they're also resource areas.
Okay. Great. So do we have any more questions on the zoning line shift?
Yeah, so in the area right now, are the blue lines tagged as with blue surveyor's tape?
They're not. They're tagged with yellow, kind of a lime green yellow tape that's out there. We didn't use blue because we've surveyed the entire property for wetland delineation purposes. Okay. And those are all in blue. And quite frankly, there's just been a lot of history on that site where there's different colors all over. That's the one color we haven't seen pretty much anywhere else on the property so far.
I have been in there. And there are surveyor's tape everywhere.
Yes. Yes.
So that was thank you very much for that update. That was, I think, quite beneficial.
Okay.
Does anybody else out there have any questions on this? No, hearing none, we'll move on to the next topic. Let's see, what are we at?
We're at the height.
Okay.
So I guess my general commentary on this, and you know, this is obviously something we could spend a lot of time debating, but I guess from our perspective, you know, as you know, the current restrictions right now in the OLI allow us to, with a building height of 35 feet, which, you know, quite frankly, in today's market from a, you know, warehouse, industrial, you know, light assembly type scenarios that, you know, both Unified is looking at as well as other opportunities, it's a very restrictive height. What we tried to do is provide some documents that come from within the industry that allow us to give you some better insight to what you may or may not already know. But in terms of existing trends, the one that's it's kind of evolving, right? This whole, the market right now and the uses of the warehouses is evolving in the last, you know, 5 to 10 years or so in terms of the height of the buildings. This NIOP document here has, you know, a lot of information that you need, is great. If you want to flip to page 30, I think that's probably got the best graphic. But chapter 2 in particular has a lot of great information about just general development of sites and layouts and things like that. But they also talk about the buildings. And the point being is that in the last, you know, 10 or plus years or so, the technology with both lift truck vehicles, there it is, yeah, that figure right there, lift truck vehicles and the spacing and the racking systems and fire suppression in those racking systems within buildings has evolved to the point where just the taller buildings, it becomes much more efficient. So what you know, industry wide, what you see in a lot of locations is either zoning that is either, you know, predates the evolution of this technology that allows for the higher buildings or not. It just hasn't necessarily kept up with the technology. So the ability to go vertical becomes much more cost efficient from an overall standpoint because of the ability to maximize that space. So, and this graphic here kind of shows, and again, I'll give you the quick overview of it. But the reality is what they're trying to show is the optimal height. And, you know, typically if you had a 40-foot clear, if you had a 40-foot high building, you get a 36-foot clear. So generally your structure depth is, you know, anywhere from 4 to 5 feet. And what they're trying to show here is that the optimal height is actually at about 50 feet of clearance, because depending upon your pallet sizes and how you stack things inside from a storage standpoint, you know, there's 56 to 64 and 72 are kind of the industry standards for pallet heights. But when you want to optimize them, when you're at that 50-foot range, it gives you the most versatility to configure your building based on whatever your particular use is. So, you know, from Unified's perspective, they're looking at it and saying, okay, what's the optimum height? And it's not to say that every single building would necessarily be that high. It just gives you a better menu of options, if you will, that allows you to, you know, attract Class A tenants that are looking for this kind of optimized storage. And it's the most efficient scenario. There are several other documents that were included here that, you know, would take some time to read through. We just provide them as reference. This document in particular the intent here is just to provide you, which I'm sure probably a lot of you already know, but it's just the surrounding towns and the heights that are permitted by their either existing zoning bylaws or by special permit. So as you can see, you know, obviously certain towns, you know, Uxbridge, Millbury, Grafton, they all tend to be at least 45 feet or higher. That they allow for, you know, this type of use and building height within those districts. So, and we just provided the links so that you could easily click on those just to take you to those if you care to look at those sections and do some research on it. But I think the other documents that are in here are just some publications, articles and stuff that talk about it. It's been the talk of the industry, if you will, the last, you know, 5 years in particular. It was a very robust and busy market before the pandemic, and now obviously things have heated up even more. So the chatter and the trend within the industry is to seek these higher buildings and to really maximize, you know, opportunities from a development standpoint, without having to necessarily increase the footprint size of the building, which I think is the nice feature about it, because, you know, literally going up 10 feet can increase your capacity by 25% without having to go horizontally. and gain more space. So that's a nice aspect of this as well.
Wow.
Oh, Mr. Chairman, I think your team actually provided some, at least initial addresses, probably from a real estate kind of site of clear span higher buildings that are for sale right now. I think Mr. Chairman did visit a few. And then the team had planned to get you some 50 and 60 foot high structures kind of closer to home. So you can actually go look at them and think about whether this is something you would want to sponsor, something you would request that they petition, and or if you were to sponsor it or even allow it, if there would be kind of caveats like, yeah, we'll allow this height if it's set back this many feet, or we'll allow this height if it gets a special permit, or we'll allow, you know, so as you think about how you would structure a bylaw, how you might structure that, but actually being able to go stand next to and see a 50 to 60 foot high building to see what you think about it. So I know, Wally, that you did visit a building that was on that list today. I didn't know if you wanted to comment on that at all.
Well, yesterday I drove down to Taunton and looked at that. I think it was a cold storage building, I believe, but it was on your list of places to go and visit.
Yep.
And fine. First of all, it wasn't as tall as I thought it was going to be. I guess that was the front area, the office area. I did take a couple of pictures of it, with the vehicle in front to get some idea of perspective. And I was, 150 feet away from it. It was a fairly substantial building. I looked it up. I couldn't figure out how big I didn't see anything printed that I could find as to the dimensions of it. But, it's, yes, it is tall, but it wasn't overwhelming, which is what I thought it might be. And
The buildings are so big in footprint, so proportionally they probably are. They're big, but they're proportional. Is the building, there's a big building, the BJ's, I think it's BJ's Warehouse on South 146.
Oh, in Uxbridge?
Yeah.
What size is that? That's a huge building.
Yeah, I have no idea.
No idea.
I don't know the specifics on that one, but we could look into that and find that as an example too.
Yeah, I would say that's a good example I don't know that it's 50 feet, but 40 feet or 50 feet, when you're talking this size of a building, doesn't make any difference, I don't think.
Yeah, I think your point's spot on about the size of the buildings. When you're talking a building that gets, when you're up 400,000 or 500,000 square feet, or some of them even bigger, proportionately they just the height gets minimized because of the scale of the building. I think the other nice thing about our site in particular is just the topography of the site and the way it's situated. On the northerly and kind of easterly side of the site, we have other existing commercial uses and things like that. But on the westerly side, where the residential area is, there's, as I mentioned earlier, you have such a vertical relief that if you were standing in those yards, you have the natural buffer of the power lines anyways, and the trees, vegetation around it, and then it drops off. Well, we're obviously would be looking to be well below that drop off. If the building were 60 feet high, you'd still have another 60 feet of natural topography above the top of the roof when you're standing in someone's yard.
Well, that's very important to know, I think, with regard to this entire project.
This is Ted Fire with the Craft Group. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I apologize. I was having technical difficulties, so I called in. And Matt, you're doing a great job in summarizing all this. I would just add, Jen, we're happy to take videos of some of these other facilities that we provided if folks can't get out to these other buildings. One of the other things we talked about was putting up some balloons on the property, the aggregate property at the various heights, 35, 40, 50, 60, just so it maybe, program just a rough outline of a building, and then folks can look at it at their leisure, hopefully not on a windy day. So we're happy to do that kind of thing if it helps give people the scale. We tried to do a 3D rendering of of the difference between these building heights, but they're so large in footprint that they almost didn't make any difference on an 11 by 17 plan. You just can't tell. So let us know what would be helpful for you. Like I say, we're happy to put the balloons up at the right time and show it to you that way.
And so as a general question on this parcel, are you talking a building, 2 buildings, 5 buildings?
The site is so big. We've acquired the aggregate parcel. We are in the process of hopefully acquiring one of the other larger parcels nearby and contiguous. So it's so big, over 400 acres, that we could do multiple buildings.
Right.
Our priority is certainly getting a building going for the unified operation to consolidate some things here. And that building itself, is going to want to be somewhere between 500,000 and maybe even approaching 1 million square feet. But even at 1 million square feet, we could fit 4 other buildings on this site. It's just so big. So to have that height flexibility, I think, is going to just be long-term in our collective best interests, just to, foster maximum use of the site.
All right.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jen.
I
Matt, this is Len. Can you hear me?
Hi, Len.
Yeah, hey, Len.
Yes.
Hey, hi. So I'm sorry, I had some technical difficulties. Jen, hello, board. Thanks for having us and hearing us out. But I wanted to just echo and segue what Ted and Matt had just said about the building height and what we need to do to show the board what these building heights would look like. And we've been fortunate to be in this town for over 25 years, Art and myself and the group, almost 30 years. Our business has grown and economics have changed in a lot of different segments of the market. And our growth has been very good, and we appreciate what the town has done to support us and the employees that we've been able to generate in this town. And I just, from our perspective, Art and myself and the balance of our team, with Ted and Matt in developing this site for us, it really is important to get the maximization of building height, especially in 2021 and beyond. A lot of our customers that we're servicing require a lot of more services from us, which has been a good thing for us to grow over the years, where we're warehousing and packaging their product and storing it and shipping it and doing just a lot of different value-added services. So whatever you guys could do to consider a maximum height for us would be ideal in our building plan. So I just wanted to point that out and thank you guys for taking the time tonight.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you for your comments. Is anybody else out there that would like to make a comment on this? Okay.
Jenna, I have a question here. So the 35 feet, initially or historically, that had to do with the length of the fire truck ladders. Is that where it came from initially?
Well, we didn't really have a fire truck with ladders. That's where it came from initially.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't have a fire truck with an aerial ladder, put it that way. We definitely have ladders on fire trucks, but we didn't have an aerial ladder truck. Obviously now we have an aerial ladder truck. Our mutual aid communities all around us have aerial ladder trucks. So it was both a function of that and then just, aesthetics in general, just, not wanting to have big, huge hulking structures, especially adjacent to residential uses. Now, as was pointed out, particularly on this parcel, you've got enough area where you might be able to think about, I see Douglas allows over 35 feet in various parts of town. They allow 60 feet in industrial, but they allow over 35 with a special permit. So you definitely have a process where you can consider if it works in a particular area. Or you could do something like, we can have a tall building if you're set back from a residential line a certain distance. Or so those are things to think about. But yes, the original thing was we just didn't have the ability to firefight effectively over 35 feet, which that is not an issue currently. This site is also adjacent to the Wilkinsonville Water District Hatchery wellhead and has water, public water, sewer and natural gas directly adjacent to it on 2 different roadways. So you have firefighting ability in terms of public water as well.
So the ideal building height in this, one of these memos, and we're going from 35 feet to 60 feet.
Yeah, so you have to decide whether there's all different ways you can approach that, whether you want to do it at all. And then if you want to do it, do you want to do it carte blanche everywhere in the office light industrial district? Do you want to do it only at certain distances? Do you want to do it only by special permit? How do you want to regulate that?
And keep in mind, 1 million square feet, that's 3 football fields by 3 football fields.
Mm-hmm.
We could land the space challenge.
The current Atlas Box building is right around 400,000. So you're talking 2.5 of the existing.
And how high is the existing Atlas Box building?
You guys tell me. I think it's close. I think it's only 28 actually.
Frank, are you still on? I see your name's on here. I don't know if he's there or not.
Yeah, I'm still on.
It's only about 28.
It's 30 feet, 30 feet outside, inside it's just under 28 feet.
Yeah, it's not very high.
About 24.
And that'd be good to know what the BJ's building is.
It's probably around the same, it might be 40 feet. It's hard to tell from the road, but I don't believe it's higher than 30 feet. I mean, 40 feet.
Yeah.
Currently.
I will actually send out an email to my fellow planners in our adjacent communities tomorrow, just asking them if they can give me the name or location of a building at 40 feet, 50 feet, 60 feet, if they have any.
Okay.
All right, so we are where we are. So you guys need to let me know on the list that I gave you. Do you want to eliminate anything? Do you want to add anything? Do you want to change the wording on anything? Now, that being said, you also need to decide, you have a meeting coming up on, is it February 8th?
Mm-hmm.
And you have one 2 weeks after that. Right now you have no public hearings scheduled for February 8th. And in a matter of days, we'll cross the deadline for hearings on February 22nd, I think is 2 weeks after February 8th. You do have your special hearings starting on February 11th for the Blackstone Valley Logistics Project, the 640,000 square foot warehouse in South Sutton that I need you to acknowledge the legal filing of this evening. That you will have Thursday hearings every other Thursday until we're done. But it's only that subject, and those will be multi-town public hearings with Douglas and Uxbridge. So, Zoom meetings. So we could also just on the 8th or the 22nd, just do zoning. And, if there's Form A plans or something, but no public hearings. So what do you want to do?
8th.
My vote is to do these just by themselves, so we don't get burnt out by the time we get to them.
All right. So you want me to schedule just bylaw discussion on the 8th?
Yep.
Yes.
And is there anything you think needs to come off this list or get added to this list?
Oh, I think the list is fine. I think that the definition of structures or uses allowed may want a revisit and confirmation before we go forward in this building height.
Right. So, and consider whether you're adding a building height article as well.
Yeah, those are the two things that crossed my mind.
Is there anything you need from me? Or I think the Unified Craft Atlas Box team will be looking for other building examples in the area, and I will send out the email. Is there anything you need from me and or this team in terms of the zoning district and or height changes for your consideration on February 8th? You can certainly also send me an email, but anything you can think of that you need before we do the in-depth consideration on February 8th?
That's what I can think of.
Nope,
No.
just some locations of buildings you can go stare at. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so this will be our base list. We'll put a placeholder in for a potential height change in the office light industrial district. I'll schedule just bylaws, and like I said, if minutes, if there's any Form A plans, will show up on the 8th, but no public hearings or big issues other than bylaws on the 8th.
Yes, and then I think that makes sense going forward, since we've gone for a year, pretty
They've
much
gone for
without
a year.
anything.
Yeah, they've been on the back burner for a long time,
Yeah.
so it's kind of
So-
important, and maybe things have changed in a year.
Yeah.
And if you can, Jen, if you can somehow manage the time that we spend on the 8th, it's important that we give us all of our attention. But for me anyways, I'm good for an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Then I get overwhelmed with it all. So let's have a plan, with clear instructions and things that we have to consider. I think words can't describe how big a parcel that is until even when you say it, unless you go on it, it's huge. It's huge. In the contours and where you are, and you have if you're anywhere around it, you have no sense of where it is, and just maybe it would fit there. I can't imagine something that big in other parts. I just can't. It wouldn't fit in other parts of Sutton. But it actually might fit there. And I also think that you should share send a little note off to Millbury as our neighbor to talk about the kind of plans that we're looking at here, because they're looking at a pretty big one next to us. We want to have them in the loop and extend the same courtesy to them.
They're discussing that project as we speak in their public meeting. All right, well, in that, you bring up a good point, Bob, that when we talk about height, right now, we're talking about adjusting the height in the office light industrial district, which is not just this part of Northeast Sutton. That is land around this parcel, not just this parcel. And that is land in Southeast Sutton as well, where the Blackstone Valley Logistics Building will go. So that's another thing for you to be thinking about, whether you want a carte blanche height increase in all of the office light industrial district, or what the qualifiers need to be.
I need to craft it. Yeah, we need
No
to
pun intended. Craft it.
Missed it. Yeah, so smart.
You're such a comedian.
So maybe the craft developers can provide a little additional information. So if you're considering 5 buildings that are 1 million square feet, what's that going to do to the intersection of your outlet road and Boston Road and 146? I mean, if there's a truck coming out every 30 seconds, it's going to be a disaster over there. So maybe the traffic is a discussion item, or is that a bylaw restriction or control item? So that's just food for some thought, I think.
Yeah, we've actually already talked with the team to some degree about those considerations. And as you'll recall, we wanted to have a different zoning designation in South Sutton for multi-town mixed commerce, because in South Sutton, a pure warehouse use like an Amazon distribution or a Home Depot distribution, that kind of warehouse distribution would not work on this site. So that's why we wanted to designate South Sutton as not office light industrial, as multi-town mixed commerce, leave this area as office light industrial, and specifically pull apart the warehouse distribution use into different categories. Atlas Fox obviously is a very different kind of warehouse distribution use than Home Depot or Amazon or anything like that. But this team is already on notice, and they're very aware and very already having consideration of what their traffic generation will look like and exactly what it will do on Boston Road and the intersection of Providence Road and Boston Road. And we're already having some talks on how we can partner to make sure we consider those impacts and that we maybe look for some funding assistance from the state or to make improvements, not just for this use of this parcel, but all of the circulation that already happens in this area.
So why don't we bring back that bylaw that got rejected to make a different overlay down there?
If you want to, we can do that.
Why don't
We
put
can,
it on the list? We can always remove it, right? We can always pass over it.
yeah, I mean, we can certainly do that. And then what we would do hand in hand with that is be much more specific for Northeast Sutton in terms of what
Right.
kind of warehouse distribution would work here.
Okay.
And heights.
Yeah, so if you want me to, I will pull multi-town mixed commerce back out of the box.
I think we should, yeah. Do another shot.
Yeah.
Is that the majority of the board with that?
It's a good idea.
Yes. Yes.
All right. I will pull that bylaw back out of the box and
Dust it
get,
off and bring it back.
Yeah.
I will do that. And that may, may give us something to work with, like you said, in terms of height and the like.
Okay.
All right, we good? Oh, can you acknowledge the legal filing of the Blackstone Valley Logistics 640,000 square foot warehouse distribution in South Sutton, please?
Jesus Christ.
So acknowledged.
Nice work.
Okay.
Did you say that in one breath, Jen?
Not too big, only 640,000 square feet.
Yeah.
For Sutton. Well, I want to thank the members from Atlas, Allied, or Craft, or whatever corporate entity you represent for, coming in here tonight and giving us information. And, we will certainly be perusing it and hopefully moving forward on this.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you for your time. Any questions, obviously feel free to reach out to us. We're here to help and we're looking forward to getting through this and coming up with a great solution.
Great.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
I make a
now-
motion we adjourn this evening's meeting.
Yay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Well done.